Well, hello and welcome to this English lesson about the future. I do have to tell you though, this is not a grammar lesson. This is a lesson where I'm going to talk about what life might look like in 5 years, in 10 years, or even further into the future. So I know when you look at the title slide, it says the future. I think some of you maybe thought this was going to be about the future tense, but this is actually going to be about the future. Before we get started, just a few things that you need to know. First of all, please use the chat only for English conversations between each other. If you have questions, please use the link that Todd and Nightbot will be sharing in the chat, and Dave as well. That just allows me to keep the questions organized. Please keep the chat in English because I think that just helps everyone practice their English while they're watching the lesson. So we're going to talk about the future. We're going to talk about what life might look like in the future. So I have a few slides ready to talk about the future. Some of the things I talk about may seem hard to believe, and some of the things that I talk about might already exist in some small form. So the first thing I want to talk about is space tourism. So right now, if you want to visit another country, you can get on an airplane and you can fly there and you can enjoy that country. In the future, we may have space tourism in addition to normal tourism. Space tourism really excites me, believe it or not. I would love to go to space. And in some small form, space tourism is already being talked about. They are thinking about allowing people who have lots of money. Of course, rich people always get to do the fun things first. They are thinking of allowing people with lots of money to take a rocket or spaceship into orbit around the Earth. So in the future, we might see space tourism become a reality. When you say that something will become a reality, it means it will become normal. So space tourism might be normal in the future. Who knows? Maybe you in your lifetime will be able to go into orbit, or maybe even visit the moon, or maybe visit Mars. It sounds hard to believe, doesn't it? But who knows? It could become a reality. Again, the phrase to become a reality means for something to exist. When I was a kid, I watched a lot of cartoons, and in the cartoons, it would take place in the future. That means the cartoon was telling a story that happened far in the future, and they would always have a flying car. And they also said when I was a kid in the 70s, I was a kid in the 70s, for those of you trying to figure out my age, that we would all have flying cars someday. But we don't. This did not ever become a reality. But someday, maybe there will be flying cars. Let me just, give me a sec here. I'm going to check the audio just to make sure everything is working good. Yes, good. So the flying car never really was invented. Maybe someday in the future there will be flying cars, but there certainly are a lot of drones. Drones are small little machines that you can fly around. They have 4 propellers and you can use them to take pictures. So we'll see. The other thing that might become a reality, something that might be invented, would be something that's called a hologram. A hologram is when instead of looking at something flat on a screen, like the screens behind me, you would see something in 3 dimensions. Right now, when you watch a soccer game or football game on the TV, it's on a flat, sorry, you can't see it's on a flat screen. But in the future, you might be able to watch it where you can actually see it from all 3 sides. It would be in 3 dimensions, or it would be 3-dimensional. I really hope that holograms become a reality. I think it would be very, very cool to be able to see things in 3 dimensions when you want to watch them. In fact, maybe my live streams someday will be holograms. Maybe you'll be able to sit on different sides and see me as if you are actually in the classroom. Maybe I will just be a hologram sitting in your house teaching you English. That would be very, very cool. Of course, we do already have rockets. So this is a rocket. I did want to put this slide in here though, because the rockets that we use now might get bigger, and the rockets that we use now have already become reusable. a reusable rocket can take off, but later that rocket can come back down and land again. A company called SpaceX has rockets that can go into space and then they can return and they can land and they can be used again. So rockets are already something that we have, but they might become quite a bit more common in the future. I don't think we'll ever have our own personal rocket. The way you own a car, I don't think you'll own a rocket someday, but who knows? Hey, I do want to pause and say hi to all the people who are watching. Thank you so much for being here. It's awesome that you are here learning just a little bit of English with me. After rockets, they might build things called starships. A starship would be a larger rocket that's built to go from Earth to other planets or to other star systems. I don't know how much you know about space, but we live, the sun is the star in our solar system. We might eventually someday build starships and use those ships to travel to other solar systems, to other star systems. So a starship is simply a larger rocket or a larger spaceship that's made to go between the stars. So someday we might have those. And we might someday live on the moon. Someday they might build a base on the moon. A moon base would be a place where you can live if you visited the moon. So they often talk about visiting the moon, but they also talk about starting to build habitats or places to live on the moon and building a base. You are probably already familiar with the word base when we talk about military bases. Sometimes the army will have a base. They will have a military base. That is the place where all of the soldiers live. Someday we might build a base on the moon, and it would be called a moon base. And then someday we might have interplanetary travel. So a planet, we live on the planet Earth. Mars is a planet as well. When you travel between planets, it's called interplanetary travel. So someday you might be able to go to Mars. You might be able to take an interplanetary trip, and you might be able to travel from one planet to another. We'll see. Who knows whether any of this will be invented. By the way, I do want to stop here and say, I really hope most of these things get invented. I know I'm probably too old to enjoy some of the things that I'm talking about today, but I really hope that someday we are able to experience travel between planets. I just think it would be amazing. We might also have interstellar travel. So interplanetary travel would be travel between the planets in our solar system. Interstellar travel would be travel between the stars. So if we could travel to our closest star, we would say that that is interstellar travel. And then if we do eventually get there, we might do what's called terraforming. So terraforming is when you take a planet, like the planet on the far left. I don't know if that's left or right. It's when you take a planet and you use scientific techniques to change the planet to become more like Earth. So you know that Earth is also called terra firma, and terra means Earth. When you say you are terraforming something, it means you are making it like the Earth. Hey, let's jump over and do a few questions. Let me just get my questions ready to go here. Thank you all for being here once again. I hope this lesson is exciting for you. It's an exciting lesson for me. As most of you know, I really enjoy science fiction and talking about the future. Winter has the first question. Do you think there will be another COVID in the future? I think that as human beings, we have always had disease and we will always have disease. I do think we will become better at detecting disease, and I think we will become better at treating the disease, and I think we will get better at making vaccines for the disease. Right now, it's hopeful that they will develop really good ways to test people. They're saying that they want to develop tests where within minutes they can test whether someone has COVID or not. So I think that diseases will exist in the future, but I think we will get much better at detecting those diseases. That is my hope, at least. Um, we says, hello, good morning, Teacher Bob. I want to know, do you have any plans for the future? Right now, I don't have a lot of plans for the future. Right now, because of COVID, there isn't a lot to do. But what I do know is on the weekend, as a family, we have started going out once a day to somewhere that's outdoors. Last week, we went to the lake just to kind of walk along the pier. And this weekend, we might go out again. So those are plans I have for the immediate future. So if you say to someone, do you have any plans for the immediate future? It means in the next few days. And so we do plan to go out. But long term, no. My plan is to keep working for a long time, to keep doing YouTube for a long time, and just to enjoy life. But great question, let's see here. Next question. Oh, this is a great one. Mary the Iranian. Hi, Teacher Bob. Hope you are doing well. My question is, if you could go into the past through a time machine, which era would you like to go into and why? So I've always been curious to visit the province of Quebec when it was first being settled. So a long time ago, when people came from the country of France to what is now the province of Quebec, I would be very interested in seeing that. I would also like to go into the past to see some of the cool buildings in the world being built. I would love to see the Leaning Tower of Pisa being built. I would love to see the Eiffel Tower being built in Paris. And I would love to see the CN Tower in Toronto being built. So good question. I think I would make multiple trips, Mary, if I could travel to the past. Let's see here. Next question from Modine. Mr. Bob, would you like to visit the future someday if it was possible? If so, and you can go 10 years into the future and you could only pick 3 things before coming back, what would they be? Well, I would get a new phone. I'm not sure if you could go to the future, get a phone, if it would work when you came back. I would probably look for any cool new medicine. Maybe they have a medicine that heals everything, or the cure for cancer. I think I would look for something like that as well. So a selfish choice, I would get a new phone, and then I would look for things that would help everyone. Let's see here. Next question is from Renata. Good morning, Bob. I don't have a question on today's topic, so I'll just say this. I hope everyone who watches you will be fluent in English in the future. Peace. That's a cool thing to say, Renata. Thank you for those kind words to me and to everyone else. I hope so too. Next question is from Salah. Salah says, what do you worry your children will face in the future? I think the same thing that many people worry about, that maybe the planet isn't going to be as nice in the future. We tend to pollute a lot. We tend to be very hard on the environment. We throw a lot of garbage out. We are very wasteful people, and I don't think we're taking good care of the earth. So I worry that my children won't be able to grow as good of crops. I'm worried that there will be less food. I'm worried that the future might not be as good as it is right now. So thanks for that question. That is something definitely that I worry about. Hilda says, does Canada have flying cars? Just a little correction there, Hilda. I think maybe there's 1 or 2, but they are usually experimental. That means you can't go buy a flying car, but there might be some person somewhere who has invented one and they built one, and maybe they're testing it out. So definitely not not very common. This is kind of a morbid question. Abu says, good news, we will all die in the future. So that is the reality of life. One of the only guarantees in life is that someday we will all die. It's a sad thing to think about. It's not a happy thing, Abu. But yes, in the future, at some point, all of us will hopefully live a rich and full life. And then at some point, our life will end. So that is sad. What I will say is, it is nice knowing all of you along the way. Next question is from Martina. I've heard about using drones for herding. Do you use them for it as well? Little fix there. Martina, we don't here use drones to herd. Like Jen and I don't use drones, but I have heard that they're using drones to herd animals. Did you hear that sentence? I have heard that they do herd animals using drones. So herding is when, if you have sheep and you want to move all the sheep, you will herd them in different directions. You might use a dog or you might use a drone to herd your sheep. Let me do one more question and we'll get back to the lesson. Rod says, Mr. Bob, what do you think the future holds? I'd never imagined in the early 90s we'd have the web, let alone video calls. Thank you. Have a great day. Rod, I would agree. I don't know what the future holds, but I am in the same boat as you. When I was younger in the 90s, I never thought I would be able to just talk to someone on a video call during my coffee break. So Rod and I have coffee break Tuesdays. Tuesday, Rod and I talked for 15 minutes during my coffee break. Rod's in Brazil. I'm in Canada. In the 90s, I never imagined it would be easy, cheap, and so convenient. Like, if you want to talk to someone using the internet, there are so many different pieces of software. It was so easy. I flipped my laptop open. It's like, hey, Rod, are you there? And then boom, Rod and I have a conversation. It was very cool. Anyways, fun talking to you this week, Rod. I'll see you next week again. Next question. Let's see here. Next question is not about the future. Oh, no. I guess I have to answer it anyways. Hi, Teacher Bob. Please explain. I brought food from the store and I brought food at the store. And what does he look like and how does he look like? So I'll do this quick because it's not about the lesson. It should be I bought food from the store or I bought food at the store. You can use both. They are both correct. Back on track. Intan says, hi, Bob. How's it going? Bob, do aliens exist in space? A few corrections there, Intan. What do you think? Thank you. Well, I'm going to talk about aliens a little further along in the lesson. I personally don't think aliens exist, but I could be wrong. But personally, I don't think they exist. Maybe they exist, but I'm not sure. That's a tough question. Hey, let's get back to the lesson. So there is something called the speed of light. The sun puts out light, and I think it takes 8 minutes for that light to arrive at Earth. And one of the things that you often see in a science fiction movie or read about in a science fiction novel is something called faster than light travel. That's when we build spaceships that can go faster than the speed of light. We also just refer to it as FTL. So we'll say FTL. I don't think we'll be able to do this. Okay, I don't think we'll be able to build spaceships that go faster than the speed of light. I think if we ever did, it would be amazing. It would be a miracle. But currently, I don't think it is possible. But you need to think, in the past, there is something, they were able to make airplanes that go faster than the speed of sound. So interestingly enough, we broke the sound barrier. I'm wondering if maybe I should start thinking we can also go faster than light someday. We'll see. I really don't think it's possible. I actually think it's science fiction. So I wanted to mention science fiction because when you talk about the future, some of the things you talk about are very easy to believe. You can think, yeah, we might have that in the future. Oh, that seems totally possible. Oh, I think someday that will be a reality. But some things, when you talk about the future, seem like science fiction. Science fiction is a genre of story about the future that doesn't exist yet. So if you've ever watched Star Wars, that is a science fiction movie. If you have watched the show Star Trek, that is a science fiction television show. And sometimes in those movies or those shows, you see things that you think that could totally be a reality someday. They might actually invent that. And sometimes you see things and you think, no, that will never, ever be a reality. It's science fiction. We already have AI right now, and we do refer to artificial intelligence by using the acronym AI. So in your computer, you have a little bit of AI. When you use the internet, when you do a search, there is an artificial intelligence. There is some software that helps you do the search, and we would call it AI. Right now, AI is not very powerful. We do not have artificial intelligence that's smarter than a human being. We have not created thinking machines that are smarter than people. But we do have a little bit of AI. And in the future, there may be a lot more artificial intelligence. There might just be a lot more machines that can do some thinking for people. Let's see here. Some things we might not have in the future. And this goes back to the question earlier about COVID. There's a possibility that there will be no disease. When people think about the future, they like to think about a future where bad things don't happen anymore. So in the future, there might be no disease. That is very much a possibility. We may develop ways to simply be healthy all the time. It's possible that there will be no poverty. Right now in the world, we have very rich people and we have very poor people, and we have people all along the, sorry, I forgot the word all of a sudden. We have people all along the spectrum, okay? So we have very poor people, and we have very rich people, and we have all kinds of people in between. But in the future, there might be no poverty. We might get to a time in the future where there are no poor people. If you don't know what the word poverty is, poverty simply describes people who are poor, okay? So in the future, there might be no poverty. That would be really, really cool. There might be no hunger. Right now in the world, just as we have poor people and we have wealthy people, there also are people who have lots of food, and there are people that don't have very much food and they go hungry. That's how we describe it. There are countries that have lots of food, and there are countries that don't have very much food. And hopefully in the future, there will be no hunger. That would be really, really nice if everyone on the planet was able to have food all the time. And then there might be a time where we have world peace. We still live in a time where countries sometimes go to war against other countries. We live in a time where countries that are beside each other, countries that are neighbors, have really strong borders. And every once in a while, there's a little bit of a conflict between those countries. In the future, we might see world peace. World peace would be when every country in the world gets along with every other country. So this would be my biggest wish. I wish we had world peace. It is a very difficult thing to have, though. It's very difficult to get everyone to get along. And the reason I say that is because I'm a dad and I have kids. And for those of you that have children, or if you remember your childhood, you probably fought with your brothers and sisters. And my children sometimes fight. And whenever my children fight, I think this is why we don't have world peace, because people tend to fight with each other quite a bit. My children don't fight a lot, but they do every once in a while. If we had all these things, let me back up. If we had no disease, if we had no poverty, if we had no hunger, and we had world peace, we might call our society a utopia. You may have seen this word before. A utopia is when the world has everything as perfect as it can be. So if we lived in a world with no hunger, no poverty, world peace, no one ever fought, we would call it a utopia. And then this is kind of the opposite a little bit. If we don't get better as a world, we could have what's called an apocalypse. An apocalypse, hopefully this doesn't happen in the future. An apocalypse is when society as we know it, civilization as we know it, ceases to exist. So there might come a time in the future where there is a huge world war. And when the world war is over, we might not go back to normal. We could have a pandemic that's worse than COVID. And all of these things could cause what's called an apocalypse. I hope this never happens. I personally don't think this will ever happen. But there is a possibility that if we had a gigantic world war, or if we had a disease that was really, really bad, that we could end up in a situation. My hope is that we end up with a utopia and that we don't end up having an apocalypse. That would be really, really bad. So I think we should all do what we can to avoid disease. We should do what we can to solve disease as a planet. We should all work together. We should do what we can to solve poverty so that there are no poor people in the world. We should try to end hunger. We should try to make sure the whole world has the food they need, and we should work towards world peace. So I think when I help all of you and I try to be as kind as possible, I hope I'm doing my little part to make the world a better place. That's my wish. Let me see here. Let's jump over. I'm going to do this a little earlier than normal. I'm going to flip to members only chat just for a little bit. Give me a second here to do that. So this is a little earlier than normal, but let's do about 10 to 15 minutes of members only chat. I will answer questions from everyone else, but at the same time, if you are a member, you can ask a question directly in the chat. Let me check my audio for a sec too. Yeah, I think it's working good. Hey, Lolly says, I don't need to go to the moon because I always have my head in the clouds. So Lolly is saying she always is a dreamer. So she doesn't need to go to the moon because she's probably just good at dreaming about it. Regina Kim says, hello, everyone. Hello, Regina. Good to see you. Panther is here smiling and laughing with Lolly. Very, very cool. Anyways, if you don't know what a member is someone who has clicked the join button below and decided to support my channel. It is very nice of you to do that. Corey J says, in France, we have an expression, look into a crystal ball. That means being able to predict the future with a crystal ball. Is there an idiom that means the same in English? Thanks, Bob. Yes, but the more common thing is if someone says, do you think your team will win the soccer game next week? You can respond by saying, I don't know. What do you think? I have a crystal ball? Because if you had a crystal ball, apparently maybe you could look in it. So that's how we use it. Key Park says, in the future, maybe we don't need to learn English. We could install English into our brain. That's an interesting thing, Key. I do think something like that might happen someday. Already your phone is a really good translator. And I wonder if in 5 years or 10 years, whether people will still be learning English or whether technology will do all our translation for us. It'll be interesting to see. Norma says, hello, Bob and everybody. Hi, Norma. How are you? Annette says, Laurent Alexandre, a French scientist, gave a conference in Paris about the death of the death. He said that the person who can live 1,000 years has already been born. That's interesting. So years ago, people died much younger, and people continue to live a little bit longer all the time now. My mom, who is in her 70s, is a very healthy, active person. When I was young, when my grandparents were in their 70s, they were very, very old and frail. So I think that life is being extended a bit. We'll see. 1,000 years, that would be a long time to live. Julia says, hi, dear teacher. Do you believe in predicting the future, and would you like to know it? I don't think people can accurately predict the future. I've said before, I think horoscopes, those are your little predictions about what's going to happen. I think they're written so that it always seems like they come true, but I don't know. And if I could know the future, I don't think I would want to know it. Let's see here. Panthera Nori, dear teacher Bob, to take a tumble means the same like to fall. Yes, you could say, oh, I was walking the other day and I took a tumble. In fact, no, let me see. I got to get this right. My video next Tuesday, I'm planning to do a scene where I take a tumble. We'll see how that goes. Kim says, hi, Bob. Would you live for the present or for the future? I live sometimes too much for the future, and I have to remind myself to enjoy each day, because sometimes you can spend too much time thinking about the future and not enough time thinking about right now. So that's a great question. You have to stop and smell the roses. That's the English phrase that we use. Every once in a while, you need to stop and smell the roses. It means that don't live life so fast and don't think about the future so much that you forget to enjoy today. Let's see. Corey J says, would you like to be able to see your own future? Oh, I don't think so, Corey J. In a crystal ball inside one. Yeah, crystal. No, I don't think so. That's a tough one. Like, it would be tempting. When something is tempting, it means you do want to do it, but I think it's better not to know the future. Let's see here. Rod says, I'm from a time when we would send letters everywhere. A letter to a pen pal in the US or Canada would take 9 days to be delivered. Yeah, that was what a strange time we live in now. And it's so interesting to think back. Like, the only news that I could get was in a newspaper or to watch TV. In fact, my dad got a daily newspaper when I was a kid, and I don't get a newspaper now. And yes, Rod, I remember letter writing. I had a pen pal when I was younger, and he was in Ontario, and it still took 5 days for him to get the letter. Lolly lolly. Oh, Panthera is saying, lolly lolly, I've read the similar expression. Someone got his head stuck in the air and his feet off the ground. Yeah. Oftentimes when someone isn't very logical or practical, we say they have their head in the clouds. Let's see. Julia says, yeah, I also think that the only thing predictable about life is its unpredictability. Yes. They say sometimes the only thing that's constant in life is change. So ING Martina says, I would like to have a look at the earth as Neil Armstrong did when he said, to look out at this kind of creation and not believe in God is to me impossible. It must have been gorgeous. You know, when I see those pictures that the astronauts took from the moon of the planet Earth, they're just stunning. They're just amazing, amazing photos. Panthera says, Dear Teacher Bob, forecast is always related to weather. We can't use it for other things that we just predict that will happen. No, you can use it. So generally, forecast is used for weather. Okay, so you read the weather forecast, but sometimes they will forecast other things. They'll say something like, they're forecasting just a really good day in a few weeks. They're forecasting that when two world leaders meet, they will probably come to an agreement. If you own stocks in the stock market, you could say they're forecasting a good week on the stock market. Generally used for weather, but can be used for other things as well. Corey J says, do you remember the book 1984? Yes, I remember reading the book 1984 by George Orwell. And I also read Animal Farm, which I thought was going to be mostly about farming, but it's actually a book about politics. Very interesting. Let's see here. Lolly Lolly says, with artificial intelligence, the world will radically change. I agree. I think that's, of all the things I talked about, probably the most interesting. Key Park says, imagine the future and enjoy yes, I think it's nice to imagine the future, but enjoy this time right now. Samuel Chen, hi Bob, great to watch your live. Well, future is unknown, so it depends on our effort to make it better for our children. And you do a great job helping so many people learn English. Thanks, Samuel. It's good to know that I'm doing something to help the world. Hopefully my smiley face helps people have a good day. Let's see. Panthera Nori says, oh, so if I use someone got his head stuck in the air for someone, that means we suppose he's kind of silly. Yeah, you would say head in the clouds, though. We don't often say to have your head stuck in the air because you don't want to get it confused with being stuck up. When you're stuck up, it means you're kind of rude to people and very arrogant. Rod's pen pal was in Finland. Very cool. That must have been fun to exchange letters with someone so far away when you were younger. Madi says, do you think currency union possible in the near future? That's how we would say that, Madi. So what Madi's asking is, will we have a world currency? You know that in Europe, when they formed the European Union, they also created a currency called the euro. There is a possibility that someday around the world, we will have a world currency. I don't think we're close to that, Madi, but I do think it could definitely happen in the future. Annette said, I read that the only thing capable of going faster than light is our consciousness, and that what we call premonition are leaks of consciousness that allow us to glimpse the future. I'm not sure about that, but I should talk about, in English, we have something called deja vu. And I know that that's a French term, but it is an English word as well. Deja vu is when every once in a while you have a feeling that whatever you're doing, that you did it before. And some people think that deja vu is like seeing the future a little bit, or you're experiencing something a bit ahead of time. But deja vu is a very weird experience. Panthera says, thank you so much for all the answers, dear Teacher Bob. I've learned a lot of important things. Again, no problem. It is super fun to help everyone. Let me do a few questions from the big group before I move on. Hamid says, hello, Sir Bob. How are you? I hope you don't get old in the future. It's the best thing that can happen in the future. Yeah, you know, we don't really have a choice, do we? We all do get old as we live. It's something that you can't stop. My hair is more gray now than it was 3 years ago. Irene says, do you like the movie Interstellar? So a little, fix the question a little bit there, Irene. Yes, Matthew McConaughey stars in that movie. The movie Interstellar is a very cool science fiction movie. I very, very much enjoyed that movie. Let's see here. This is from Fernando. Good morning, Bob. How are you? We have the same time zone. I know it's very handy to have the same time zone. I'm Fernando from Terra Nova in Brazil. You see the word terra there? Remember we talked about terraforming? So Terra Nova would mean new Earth in English. If you had a flying car, where would you go? So I fixed the sentence there a little bit, Fernando. If you had a flying car, where would you go? Well, honestly, Fernando, I'd probably just go to work and back. I would probably use it the same way I use a normal car. I don't think I would go anywhere fancy with it, but it would certainly be cool to see everything from above. That would be very, very neat. Let's see. Natalia says, do you believe that in the future a very simple program code will be invented, which absolutely everyone can use to write programs? Yes, I think so. As someone who has done a lot of computer programming in my life, it gets easier and easier over time. So it's very, very cool. I think they will, eventually you'll just be able to tell a computer what you want it to do, and it will do it. Let me jump over here for a sec, people. There we go. So thank you to all of the members who participated in the members only chat. Remember, if you want to support my channel, there is a join button down below somewhere. You get some cool stuff. You get an extra video on Wednesdays, but only do join and become a member if it's something you really want to do. No pressure. Next question is from Ario. Hello, Mr. Bob. Hola, Mr. Bob. How's it going? Flying car? Wow, be safe. Yeah, you know, cars are already a little bit dangerous. I'm not sure how much I would enjoy a flying car. That might be a little bit too scary for me. Like, at least with when you're on the road, if you run out of gas, you can just pull over. But if you're in a flying car, I don't know. Something that we already have today is called virtual reality. You can put on a virtual reality headset like this guy, and you can see things around you as if you are in a pretend world or a fictional world. Oh, by the way, Kim, thank you so much for the super sticker. That is very awesome of you. Thank you so much for doing that. I very much appreciate it. So someday you might come to one of my live streams using virtual reality. Right now, I am on your screen. You are either using your phone or your laptop or computer, but someday you might put on a virtual reality headset, and then you might be in a classroom with me virtually. So it would be a computer-generated room where you would actually be in the same room as me. That would be very, very cool. I really hope this technology gets developed in my lifetime. In English, when you say you hope something happens in your lifetime, it means you hope it happens before you die. I hope virtual reality becomes just this really cool and amazing technology, even for things like teaching English. We might have robots in the future. I know we often say we would love to have a robot that would clean our house, but sometime in the future, we might have robots. There might be robots that mow your lawn. There might be robots that clean your house. There might be robots that cook food for you. That would be a cool robot. You would just say to the robot, hey, robot. Well, you would probably give the robot a name, but you would say, hey, robot, can you make me some spaghetti and some vegetables? And then the robot would make you dinner. That would be really cool. We already have this a little bit, but we might see more self-driving cars. I think these are self-driving buses. We might see things like self-driving pizza delivery vehicles. I know they're experimenting with all different types of self-driving cars. A self-driving car, sorry, there's just a funny noise over there. One sec, I'll be right back. I'm coming. Sorry, I don't think I've ever left the live stream before. There was just this really weird noise over there coming from outside. I think there's a small animal, and I found it very distracting. So anyways, I'm back. We might have self-driving cars. Already, if you have a Tesla, we have what's called autopilot. Autopilot is when you push a button and the car will stay in its lane and it will follow the cars in front of it. But in the future, we might have more of those. We might have cars where you literally don't have to drive at all. You just get in the car and you just say where you want to go and the car takes you there. That would be very, very cool. Nanobots are very, very tiny robots. They think that someday they might build robots that are so tiny that they would be able to go in your bloodstream and fight infection. So yes, Key Park. I don't know. There was just this weird, I think 2 squirrels were fighting outside. I'm not sure. It was very, very distracting. So I closed the window over there. So sorry to leave the live stream for a little bit. Nanobots are very, very tiny robots. Someday we might have nanobots that clean up different kinds of hazardous waste. We might have nanobots that are so small they can actually go in our bloodstream and do surgery from the inside. I'm not sure this will happen, but it would be really, really cool. We might have, just let me have a drink of water here. We might have something someday called a space elevator. So right now, in order to get to space, you need to go in a rocket. The rocket blasts off. That's what we said as kids. The rocket blasts off, or there is a rocket launch and it goes into space. But someday they might actually build a space elevator. We are not able to build this with today's technology, but in the future, you might simply take an elevator to go up to a space station. That would be very, very cool. By the way, I'm not sure if you knew this, but when kids count down, when kids count down like 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, and then they yell blast off. I don't know. This is how we always counted as kids. At the end, we always yell blast off because we're kind of talking about rockets. I don't think this will happen. I don't think we will have time travel in the future. Time travel, people have already asked a few questions about time travel. I don't think we'll be able to visit the past or visit the future. I think that there's no way this will ever happen. I think it's a very difficult thing to invent. And I think if we did invent it, there would be a ton of problems with it because everyone would want to travel to the past and they would want to probably change the past, which I think would be good in some ways, but bad in other ways. We might in the future have more underground cities and we might have more really tall skyscrapers. So as more and more people inhabit the planet, as the population of the planet continues to increase, we can't keep spreading out on the planet because we need the land to grow food. And so you might see cities start to have buildings that go really high in the air or start to go really deep in the ground. And so you might have what they call underground cities. If you go to Toronto right now, there are huge parts of the city where you can walk underground or above ground. There's a subway. They think that in the future, we might have more cities like that, where there's just a lot of underground areas in the city. We might also have domed cities. A domed city has a large dome over top. If pollution continues to be a problem, if we continue to just pollute and not take good care of the planet, eventually we might have domed cities so that we can control the quality of the air. I don't think this will happen. I hope this doesn't happen. But in the future, there might come a time where we have cities where we need to cover them so that we can keep the air inside very, very clean. I don't know. I think it would be better if we just took care of the planet. I think it would be much better if we just did a really good job. Let's all stop polluting and let's take really good care of the planet. I saw on the news yesterday that China promised that it would reduce its pollution in the next 10 or 20 years to almost zero. That would be really, really cool. There are many nations on the planet. China is not the only one. There are many nations that still have a lot of pollution. The United States, Canada, we are big polluters as well. It would be really cool if we could reduce pollution to zero. Let me just check here. When I was a kid, they said that there would eventually be a 4-day work week. I work 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. When I was in school, when I was a kid, they said in the future, you will only need to work 4 days a week. This never happened. They still talk about the possibility that someday there will be a 4-day work week. I hope there is a 4-day work week sometime in the future. That would be really, really nice. But right now, as it stands, that means currently, there is still a 5-day work week. So we are in a 5-day work week here in Canada. Some people work 6 days a week. I guess if you count the fact that I work on the farm on Saturday and that I do a live stream on Saturday, if you count that as work, I work 6 days a week, but most people in Canada work 5 days a week. The 4-day work week has never started. So let's see here. Teleportation. So this is where you walk in a booth and you disappear and then you appear somewhere else. I don't think this will ever be invented. I really don't. I don't think teleportation will ever work. It works in movies. If you ever watch Star Trek, they have a transporter and the people go in it and then they disappear and then they show up on the planet. I don't think teleportation is ever going to become a reality. I really don't think so. Hey, folks in the chat, I see a lot of people speaking different languages. Please keep the chat only in English or you will get a timeout from Todd or Dave. It's very important that we keep things English only so that everyone who is here to learn English can appreciate it. So yes, so please keep the chat English only. Thank you, Rosita. Make sure chat is English only. And then Todd and Dave, just take the liberty of using the timeout button if you need to time some people out if they can't pay attention. But English only, please. It's very helpful. Are there aliens? So we use the word extraterrestrial life. You can see the word terra in there again a little bit. So extraterrestrial means not from our planet. Okay. So Kim, thank you for helping out there. If you are a member and you understand the language that is being spoken in the chat, feel free to help people understand they should not be speaking in different languages. That's awesome. Extraterrestrial life. I don't think it exists. I know some of you do think it exists. Some of you don't think it exists. I'm not sure. I feel like if there were aliens, if there was extraterrestrial life, I feel like they would have contacted us at some point. But maybe, I don't know. This is a tough one. I think this is a tough one to decide. Maybe, maybe not. I guess if they ever do contact us, that's when we'll know. But I currently don't think there's extraterrestrial life. And aliens fly in aircrafts called UFOs. Sometimes there is a UFO sighting. So people think that they have seen a UFO, and UFO is short for unidentified flying object. So sometimes people will be in an airplane at night and they'll look out the window and they'll see interesting lights or other things flying, and they think that it might be aliens in their spaceship or UFO. So there are sometimes UFO sightings. I don't think, well, I said already, I don't think there's aliens. So I'm really not thinking there are actually UFOs. So I know some of you believe there's UFOs, some don't. There's no need for us to argue right now. Okay. Cloning. So this is something that actually happens already. The very first animal that was cloned was a sheep named Dolly. So cloning is when you take an animal and you take cells from the animal and you use those cells to basically grow another version of it. Jen and I were having an interesting conversation about cloning because Oscar is a really nice dog. By the way, if you watch my video on my second channel today, Oscar walks across in the background. Let me just do something for a second here. He walks across in the background. I put a link in the chat, by the way. We were talking about Oscar's so nice. If you could pay to have Oscar cloned, would you have a clone made of him? And I'm not sure. It's interesting to think about. Anyways, if you want to see Oscar, Nightbot just shared a link to a video on my second channel. Oscar does walk by in that video. I'm not sure. I like Oscar a lot. I think if it was reasonable, I might pay to have him cloned. I don't know. It's an interesting question, but could be. Hey, we're done the regular lesson, but I am going to spend some time right now just answering some questions. So I know that we're 50 minutes in. I have a few minutes here. I will keep answering questions until we get to the 1 hour point. So anyways, first question from Harry. Hello, Bob. Are there flying motorcycles which can be bought now in Canada? Do you think that people can be teletransported in the future, like email attachment one day? So there are no flying motorcycles that you can buy, but I'm sure people are experimenting with them. Oh, Julia says, yes, I saw Oscar today in the video. Yeah, Oscar walks across and then a cat walks across a few minutes later. So that was cool. And Harry, I don't think we will be teleported. Okay, so that's the word you would use. I don't know if teleportation will ever work. Julio says, do you believe there is intelligent life on other planets? That's how we would say that, Julio. As I said, I don't think there is, but I'd be quite happy to be proven wrong. That would be fine with me. If aliens showed up today and if they were nice, that'd be kind of cool, but I don't think they exist. I really don't. Snowflake says, good morning, Mr. Bob. Hopefully you're doing well. I'm really excited about this topic. So my question is, would you like to go to Mars if you had a chance one day? So yes, I would love to do that. I feel though like I'm too old. I don't think I would be able to go in a rocket. I'm old and I have children. I don't know if I want to travel all the way to another planet, but certainly the idea of traveling to the moon or to another planet is very, very interesting to me. That would be so, so much fun. But I don't think I would go. I think I would stay home. Next question is from Hussein. Hi, teacher. What do you think about that robots will become like people everywhere, and of course they'll be able to speak any languages? I think that if you are a tour guide or if you are someone that works in the tourist industry, I think robots will eventually replace you. That maybe there will be a robot that when you're visiting a beautiful city like Rome, they'll take you around the city and show you the sights. I would prefer a person, but I think that robots in the future will be able to speak any language. I think you'll be able to have a robot that helps you learn English. I think that will be very, very common. They'll take me and they'll turn me into a robot, and then you can all buy your own personal Bob the Canadian robot to help you learn English. Let's see. That'd be a pretty weird future, wouldn't it? Let's see here. Key Park says, future is so amazing. The technology develops faster than we imagine. We don't know what would happen tomorrow. Thank you, Bob. So just a few corrections in there, Key, but I agree. You imagine something and then 6 months later, someone's invented it. And then a year later, you can buy it. It is very cool. These are very cool times to live in. There are a lot of very cool things being invented for sure. Hamada says, hi, Bob. Many people are scared of the future. I think if we had a choice between the future and the present, we would choose the present. What do you think about that? So I did correct a few things there, Hamada. Maybe rewind and listen to that again. I think it's best to think about today. Like, I know tonight I'm going to see my son. He's at university. So I'm excited about that. But I want to make sure that I don't think about just that today. I need to make sure I think about my job and my other kids and say hi to Jen and say bye to Jen when I leave for work, and just not just think about the most exciting thing in the future. So very, very, very true. Yeah. Let's see here. Next question is from Amal. Hi, Bob. Good morning. Do your children ask you about the future? because I think kids are more interested in the future than adults. Thanks for this awesome lesson. My kids actually ask a lot of questions about the past. They want to know things about what was grandma like when she was a mom. And so interestingly, they do ask a little bit about the future, but they seem to be more interested in the past. Let's see here. I'm going to skip the next question because it's not about the topic. The next question as well. Let me just actually pop over and see where we're at. I think I'm done. Yeah, I think I've gotten to the end, everybody. Let's go back to the slide. So that was it. That was a nice 1 hour lesson. We've been here for a little under 1 hour. Thank you so much for being here. Please remember, if there were parts of this lesson you did not understand, there will be English subtitles auto-generated by YouTube. So come back and watch this video again and turn the subtitles on, and it might help you understand that part of the lesson. I want to thank Todd and Dave for being here and helping out. It's so awesome to have reliable moderators. They make the chat enjoyable for everybody. And thank you again to all of my members. It's awesome that you have decided to support my channel. I really, really appreciate it. If you're new here, there is a subscribe button right there. You should click it and subscribe to my channel. I do have a new English lesson that comes out every Tuesday. I do this longer lesson every Friday, and I will be having a question and answer session tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I do a bunch of things here on YouTube. Please do whatever you need to follow and be around to learn English as best as you can. Do go back and watch the video from earlier this week. Let me put that link in here. And do go, Nightbot's going to share those links in a sec. Do watch the video from earlier this week. It was a lot of fun. I did phrases you can use at work. And do go and watch the video from my second channel. As always, I do a little 4-minute video 4 days a week on that channel. I'm promoting myself like crazy, but I do also have a podcast. Check that out as well. I think there's a link down in the description to my podcast. Basically, it's just a version of this that you can listen to again to practice. Again, thanks again for being here. You guys are awesome. I'm going to click the end stream button in a moment. This was a fun lesson for me. I hope it was a fun lesson for you. I love talking about the future. Anyways, have a great Friday. Have a good weekend. Keep learning English and be kind to everybody.